down the walls. We're breaking free. Yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression. It's out for liberty. Breaking free. Yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts. We're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. We're claiming our land.
I hate this show. Oh my goodness.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Are You Smarter Than a Politician? This is your gateway drug to liberty. Tonight, America is celebrating 250 years. But is the Constitution still in charge, or has something else taken its place? Tonight, we're joined by three political minds who are at Freedom Fest with us to tackle the biggest constitutional debates facing America. Has government outgrown the Constitution, or can it be restored? So get ready, because tonight you decide who is smarter than a politician. Joining us for the sixth time, she is undefeated. I may know her a little bit better than it seems from her just being on the show. Amity Dolby. She is a Catholic libertarian activist. You can find her on X at AmityLee13. And like I said, she's got 5 wins. She's going for her 6th tonight. How are you tonight, Amity?
I am great, free. Happy to be here. Excited for this show. Like you said, you can find me on X at AmityLee13. I am a Catholic libertarian activist who promotes the consistent ethic of life, and I talk about how life is precious from the womb to the tomb, no matter who you are. And I'm excited to give a talk about this next week at Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest when we're there.
Excellent. Yeah. We will be there next week. I'll show you the details in a second. Joining us again, he was also with us at Freedom Fest, may or may not be recognized as my bodyguard, Jake Day. He is a Liberty First activist. He is also a dad, and he's got 1 win on his record. How are you tonight, Jake?
I'm excellent. I'm looking like the ghost of winter's past right now, till the light changes. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me back, and excited to be here with some really good other contestants.
You look less lifelike than Mitch McConnell right now. Thanks for coming on again. And joining us for the first time, Kyle Seraphin. He's the host of the Kyle Seraphin Show. He's got a website, kyleseraphin.com. You can find him on all the media and social channels at Kyle Seraphin. How are you tonight, Kyle?
I'm excellent, I think. We'll find out. If I lose dramatically, then I'll be in a dismal panic and sadness.
Tell everybody about your show and what else you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm a former FBI agent, and I spent time in the Air Force before that. And I'm a dad, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a Catholic. I was accidentally Catholic Hero of the Year in 2023 by Catholic Vote, which is an organization that helped put Trump in. And then I think they're still pretty into it. I'm pretty disappointed with what we've gotten. I'm kind of an all-around cynic, contrarian. I like guns. I don't like politics. I feel like politics are the things that are going to take my guns and my other freedoms. So I guess I have to care about it. I'd rather not. I wish I could live in a time when the way the country was going was in the right direction and I could just ignore it and I could go back to the range. But I can't. So I do this. I talk about it 5 days a week, starting at 9:30 Eastern time in the morning. And we discuss government malfeasance, overreach, and maybe a cynical view or a peel back the leftist media versus the right media. We try to check out what they're about and try to interpret what's really going on there.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great show. And joining us, as always, our producer, the lovely Terry Batts. How are you tonight, Terry?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this. The chat's already on fire, so keep it coming, you guys. And welcome to all the new people I see out there. There's a bunch of them. Wait till you see.
Wow, excellent. I hope they keep you busy.
They
All
will.
right. And our Friday night shows are sponsored by Xano. If you're tired of surveillance coins dressed up as freedom tech, Xano's the real deal. Open source, enterprise-grade privacy, scalable and secure. Build, spend, and tokenize any asset without the peeping eyes. Xano isn't just private. It's none of their business. And if you're new to this space, visit intro.xano.org to learn how Xano gives you the power to own your own data, your money, and your assets, all in one simple, secure platform built for real-world freedom. Appreciate you, Xano. Also, thank you to all of our subscribers. We got a couple new ones. We got Swamp Gator, who is John Ford. He is the owner of Anarchy Aleworks. You saw Amity and I posting about that place. It's really awesome. And so if you're in Southwest Florida, check that out. And I don't think I've given a shout out to Fat Bearded Chef yet. So I wanted to thank him for subscribing as well. Thank you to all of our subscribers. You can subscribe to us on X. And if you want to sponsor the show, email studio@freedomuncut.com. Amity mentioned that Amity and I will be at the Midwest Peace and Liberty Festival, August 6th through 9th. It's at Lake Satoshi, which is in Michigan. If you want to join us, go to mplfest.org. Amity and I are both giving talks on Friday, and then we're doing the game show live on Saturday, so that'll be a lot of fun. And I mentioned that all of us were at Freedom Fest, and I just wanted to thank Freedom Fest again for letting us do the show there. Thank you to You Are the Power for letting us take part in their Action Center, which was really successful at Freedom Fest. And here's the dates for next year if you want to join us next year. July 21st through 24th at Caesars Forum again in Las Vegas. It is such a good time. It is the Super Bowl of freedom conventions, so check that out. And I wanted to give one more shout out. Antiwar.com, great friends of ours. I hear they might be watching at their happy hour tonight, so cheers to y'all for the great work that you do. They're doing a fundraiser, so go to antiwar.com to donate. We think the world of them. They're the best independent news source fighting back against the warmongers and all the hypocrisy out there. So check them out or donate if you can. Excellent. Let's jump into the chat and say hello. Let's see what's going on here. Chris, a subscriber. Happy free day. What's up, brother? Kyle's got one. Security alert. Your Google account has been accessed so you can chat with the crew. All right. Marcus from Black Powder's here. What's up? He's a big Amity fan. That's no surprise. Jonathan Miller, who's running for NC Senate and also a subscriber, is here. What's up, buddy? 200 to Amity just because. So Amity's on the board. Jen's here. BCN in the house. Let's go, Kyle. I bet you Kyle's going to have people here. He's going to be tough. Jim Bob's here. What's up, Jim Bob? 150 to Kyle for liking guns. Excellent. Rich is here. Good evening. Hola to Jake. Appalachian Liberty. That's my buddy Travis, who does the Great Object podcast. Check that out, everybody. And Waz is here. Waz has got a podcast, too. Check that out. Waz is a great dude. Awesome. All right, let's jump into it here. Welcome again, everybody. And I'm on X at Smarter Game Show. Terry is Bats T76. Usually Amity's helping behind the scenes, but she's on the show tonight. Amity Lead 13. And Casey does all of our tech stuff, make sure everything works. He also does the They Both Suck podcast, and he is at American vs. Gov. Our swag is available at freedomsuperstore.com. We have shirts, we have mugs. I am wearing the Make Anarchy Great Again shirt tonight. On YouTube, we're at Freedom Uncut. We're also on Rumble. Check out our new website, smartergameshow.com, that Casey put together for us. It's really pretty cool. Please share this out. Help bust the algorithm. There's a few of us on the show that I think the algorithm doesn't like a whole lot, so your help is greatly appreciated. All right, so since Trump ruined peace prizes, we made our own. This is the grand prize for tonight, the Are You Smarter Than a Peace Prize. We also have Mike Johnson's signature cologne, Swamp Ass, as well as the Ayn Rand Fountainhead Teddy Bear. We have an assortment of libertarian bobbleheads. We also have new tonight, the Mitch McConnell Cryogenic Chamber. This is how we keep career politicians on ice long past their expiration date. We also have Fauci's truth suppressant vaccine. It makes you immune to criticism, questions, facts, and reality. We also have a new cereal called Government Crunch. It makes life harder, one bowl at a time. We also have the Uniparty garbage can because both sides are the same trash. We also have the MAGA blow up influencer. She looks real, she sounds empty, and she gets paid. I'm pretty proud of that.
That's horrible.
Thank you.
I don't know if you should lead off with cooter maxing like that. That's
Yeah. No, I'm doing it.
got
Did you see I posted myself doing that as a promo for the show? It was pretty nice. We also have all of the religious books by Trump. You know, he puts himself in all these books, so he's done that. We also have the Congressional Pacemaker, keeps you just alive enough to vote for more spending and to take more money from special interest groups. The UFC White House set, because it's the White House, the figures are sold separately. And we have the Trump Nativity set because it's almost August and we can't get rid of this piece of shit. All right, and the Lego Killdozer, because nobody talks about the Killdozer more than me and Casey do. Here's how it works. I am the government. Whatever I say goes. Scoring errors count. Life isn't fair. Suck it up, Buttercup. Nobody cares. The chat controls the score. So you in the chat can give or take up to 100 points from contestants. And because I'm the government and I believe in crony capitalism, subscribers can give or take up to 200 points from the contestants because they subscribe to me, so they matter more. Nuking a score. Any former contestant can nuke a score, taking it down by 1,000 points. The twist is a contestant can only be nuked one time, and it's got to be for a good reason. All right, lightning round, here we go. I'm going to put Terry in the back. She handles the chat and the score. Make her life extremely difficult. Thank you, Terry. All right, Kyle, first question to you. Category is constitutional government. Has the Supreme Court allowed government power to grow too far?
No. I'm pretty sure actually it's Congress that screwed that up. They're the dominant branch, and they let it go. They let it go in 1913. They let it go again in 1946 with the Administrative Procedures Act. They've basically outsourced everything they do to the executive, and then it's just a self-licking ice cream cone that just grows on its own.
Self-licking.
Oh, that is a standard. That is a standard Washington dessert.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Amity, to you. Does the federal government routinely operate beyond constitutional limits?
Oh, all the time. It's seen in tons of overreaching regulation, warrantless surveillance, undeclared wars, executive overreach, not to mention all the hundreds of bureaucracies that we have in unconstitutional agencies.
I agree. All right, Jake, to you. Has the Constitution become more symbolic than binding?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if I had my way, we would just go back to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and everything after that is scrapped. We need to go back to the basics, to what this stuff was founded on. But yeah, I mean, it's ceremonial at this point. I mean, they do what they want to do, and if they get their hands slapped later, maybe the Supreme Court has time to take up a case. Maybe something gets overturned, but it's all show at this point.
I agree. All right, Kyle, back to you. The category is the surveillance state. Has the surveillance state become permanent?
Probably. There's no evidence that it was going anywhere. So despite all of our efforts, despite the people that are interested in having less surveillance, I have this ongoing supposition that Americans actually don't want freedom. And that's kind of what we saw from basically grew out of 9/11, the Patriot Act, etc. Americans prove they don't want liberty. What they want is they want liberty from responsibility. So freedom from responsibility is kind of taken over. And that means you're going to allow all the things for convenience. It doesn't really matter who you quote as far as founding fathers. They all had this instinct that there was a danger in liberty, that it was uncomfortable, that it had the possibility of difficulty, and there had to be the responsibility that you had to take action. I think a lot of people just want to cruise through life without having to make any difficult decisions, and they're happy to outsource it. That's how we got COVID. That's why we have flock cameras everywhere right now. And it's why I don't think our vote actually counts as much as it ought to.
All that. Well said. All right, Amity, to you. Did the war on terror permanently expand government power?
Unfortunately, yes. One example is the overreach of FISA Section 702, which violates Americans' Fourth Amendment rights, and it has been for decades. I think we should repeal these and abolish the NSA.
I like it. All right. Jake, to you. Is privacy becoming America's forgotten freedom?
Privacy, I think privacy is one of those things, almost like what Kyle was saying. People really don't want it, like freedom. Like they think they want it, but they refuse to go to the lengths it takes to actually get privacy and keep privacy. We continuously give our information, our data away for convenience. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. And there's really kind of no end in sight with the growth of Palantir and a lot of these surveillance. You're really just going to give up more and more privacy the longer you go on.
I agree with that. All right. There we go. Button sticking, apparently. I just wanted to see if you were still honky white. I was just checking one more time. There we go. Yeah.
I am still honky white.
Yeah. I should do a Mitch McConnell cosmetics line, the Jake Day edition. That's the next one. All right. Kyle, to you. Category is the intelligence community. Does the intelligence community need major reform? Oh, wrong button. Sorry.
Come on, man.
Kyle, to you.
I don't know that it needs reform. It needs demolition. A lot of it needs to be destroyed. We have something like 17 or 18 different. Listen, we've gotten so many intelligence agencies in the United States that we now have an agency that oversees the agencies. That's a pretty good sign that when government is now created to oversee more government, you've lost the thread. And there are reasons for each of the intelligence agencies. There's probably an actual argument to be said that the executive function of gathering intelligence on America's enemies and foreign nations, like there's actually a use for it. But at this point, they serve themselves. The CIA has a classified budget that nobody can do oversight on because nobody knows what it is, and they don't know the names of the departments inside of it. We just had CIA whistleblower Jim Erdman come out the other day. He did a Tucker Carlson podcast. He's a buddy of mine. He was out there at Freedom Fest with us. And his whole point is that none of these things are accountable because nobody even knows what they're doing anymore. And our politicians, our executive, and even the legislator, they go to these people like they're a foreign nation asking for permission to do oversight. So destruction is in order. Forget about like oversight. A bunch of these things need to be cut and they need to be maybe curtailed into one single agency that has massive oversight. We gotta have people do it. The reality is that we're not going to do that, though. So we should also recognize that although that's the pragmatic answer for freedom, I don't think there's any energy in DC to do it.
Destroy it all. All right, Amity, should intelligence agencies have fewer domestic responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that intelligence agencies should have any domestic responsibilities at all if we're talking about the federal law enforcement wing. Domestic law enforcement should respect due process, and at the federal level, I don't think there's any reason for it to exist at all.
Sounds good to me. All right, Jake, to you. Has too much power shifted into classified government?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to just echo what Kyle just said, but it's the same thing. I mean, it's unchecked power. It's like the Russian nesting dolls of agencies where you can't follow anything. Nobody's really held accountable. I mean, you can't even. You can plead the fifth when you're asked the color of the carpet. I mean, there's no accountability. I mean, it's pretty much just a shit show.
Definitely agree with that. All right, Kyle, back to you. Category is separation of law enforcement and intelligence. Has the line between intelligence gathering and policing become too blurred?
The short version is yes, but the dangerous version is that there doesn't need to be a line. It needs to be an insurmountable brick wall. They should be locked in two separate vaults. In basically the last 200 years, if you were to find any single government that offered a agency that had both intelligence capabilities and things that they considered to be national security priorities, and then they additionally also had law enforcement, they could badge and gun and lock you up, you dealt with something that was called a secret police. We've effectively created that in the United States in the post-Patriot Act world. So we're now dealing with an animal that was never designed to exist. It has no business in a free society. And unfortunately, it's self-propagating too. So Mike Benz may call it the blob. Everyone can call it the deep state or the administrative state or permanent Washington. But at the end of the day, we're talking about agencies that serve their own mission set. And you guys probably don't know this, but there's a thing called integrated program management at my old agency. where they legitimately forecast how many crimes they are going to solve, forecast how many cases in each particular category they're going to create. And then they get incentivized, the senior executives, with 5-figure bonuses, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 at a time each year to meet those metrics that they created for themselves. And the way they do that is basically setting up terrorist cases, setting up intelligence cases into people. It's probably the scariest thing you can think of, where you get to set your own payroll priorities and then you get to go do it, and all of them are against liberty. But that's what's happening right now.
Sounds right. All right, Amity, to you. Has technology erased the distinction between intelligence and law enforcement?
I mean, law enforcement is using, a lot of modern surveillance tech right now where they collect huge amounts of information on Americans that reaches beyond the scope of constitutionality. And I don't think that law enforcement should be doing that. So, I mean, I'm sure Kyle knows a lot more about it than I do, but yeah, I think, without due process and reasonable suspicion, then they shouldn't be collecting that data.
I agree with that. Jake, to you. Should domestic law enforcement operate independently of intelligence agencies?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there should be no intelligence gathered on within the borders of the country and on citizens. I mean, unless there's, blatant, obvious threats. I mean, and I don't even that should be done on a local level. There should be no federal intelligence that's gathered on American citizens.
Definitely true. All right, enter your scores in the chat. Please share this out again if you're enjoying it. Let's see what's going on in the chat. 200 to the best Liberty couple and or nepotism points to Amity. That's fair. Leah's here. Welcome. 200 to Jake for being an awesome bodyguard. John Henry Liberty's here. Dan, a subscriber's here. 100 points for Cooter maxing. That's to Kyle. And Grumpy Gnome's here. What's up, buddy? Points to Kyle. Rose is here. 300 form self-licking ice cream cone reference for the self-licking ice cream cone reference. 100 to Amity because the government sucks. HVAC Soldiers here. What's up? 100 points to Jake. The Constitution is like a restraining order. It's just a piece of paper. Nick Stanks Memes is here. What's up? Minus 100 to Kyle for stealing Cash App's podcast set.
You guys know that?
Yeah.
That guy.
All right. Joshua's here. What's up? 250 to Kyle for bringing up Congress went to shit. Casey's here, a subscriber. What's up? William's here, another subscriber. What's up from Texas? Long time no see. Missed you guys. We missed you too, William. Jen's here, 100 for the flocking federal recovering Fed. Rich is here, 100 to Jake. 200 to Amity for provoked book on her shelf. 200 to Amity for abolish the NSA. 100 to Amity just because. 100 to Kyle for bringing the shit and this guy citing him. Rebel meets Rebels here. 100 to Jake for keeping it real. 100 to Jake for the painful truth. 200 to Jake for the whiteout sponsor look. It's bad. It's bad.
Suspicious.
200 to Kyle, destroy it. Absolutely. Button sticking, really, it's digital. I literally pressed the button like 3 times. I don't know what the word is, Casey, but it just did not work. 250 to Seraphin for spitting facts. 100 for smaller government to Kyle. 200 to Kyle, oversight departments of government. Is a government too large? Best set goes to Kyle. Points to Jake. Points to Kyle for decorating my attic. 100 for Jake. I plead the fifth for why. Sorry, Jake, pleading the fifth should be everyone's first response to any and every government question. Minus 100. 200 to Kyle for becoming a recovering Fed. What's up, Healer Protector? Another subscriber. 200 to Kyle for non-Fed speak. 200 to Kyle for his interdimensional portal in his background. 200 to Amity. Is that Irish whiskey in your coffee cup? Probably. Anti-war news is here. What's up? Points to Amity. Like I said, antiwar.com is doing a fundraiser. Please donate to them so they can continue their important work. 200 to Amity for being such a badass lady of liberty. Kryptonite Rick is here. 200 to Kyle. 100 to Kyle for not having to ask Grok before he answers a question. I will reward an additional 100 if Kyle can squeeze a DD reference in one of his answers. 200 to Kyle for the haircut. All right, let's check it out. It's a very similar haircut to mine, by the way.
A lot of people mistake us for the same person.
That's probably true.
But we've been seen in the same room.
I was gonna say it was probably weird when we were standing next to each other at Freedom Fest. Yeah.
Someone
And you
asked
bailed
today
us out
if
at
y'all were
Freedom Fest
twins.
with good internet.
Several women walked away potentially pregnant from that experience just watching us.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
a powerful moment when you combine
That
it.
is true. That is true.
Yeah.
And
And
then
we
Jake
take no
bodyguarded.
responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's check out the scoreboard. Kyle is in the lead. First time on the show, and he jumps out to an early lead. Amity just behind, and Jake in third. Let's keep going here. All right. Kyle, back to you. The category is Israel, Iran, and foreign influence. Does foreign policy receive enough public scrutiny?
I think historically, it kind of just depends on what's happening in the foreign policy. So there's a lot of times when it doesn't. It's currently getting an awful lot of it, maybe because somebody went out and advertised that they were going to be a president of peace and said that they were going to do something to the effect of start no new wars. And then they turned around and started a new war. So I think when that happens, then people tend to start tuning in. Younger people start paying attention when you hear about simulations of the draft. So I think it all has to do with whether or not something is happening overseas that matters. But I think that domestic agendas are what we are promised in this presidency. So it's kind of interesting that foreign policy dominates the news cycle every morning.
Those are great points. Absolutely. All right, Amity, to you. Has America become too closely tied to Israel's military decisions?
Yes. It's becoming more apparent that many of the conflicts that we've seen or been involved in or funded over the last decades have been at the behest of Israel. I'm more and more convinced of that. I can't think of a single war in my lifetime that's benefited the average American or kept us safer at home.
That's true. All right, Jake, to you. Does foreign lobbying have too much influence in Washington?
I mean, I think all lobbying has too much influence in Washington regardless, but I think lobbying is one of those things I've never really understood how that's been allowed to be a thing. I don't know when that got started, but that's one thing that just should not be allowed whatsoever. Like you shouldn't get to go in and basically like try and pitch your congressman or your senator on why they need to vote a certain way. If they're not going to do the research and they're not going to learn what it is, then you shouldn't get to give your 2 cents and be paid to do it.
Coming out against lobbying while looking like Mitch McConnell is a strong point there, Jake.
That is a strong point.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, back to you. Category is Israel-U.S. defense integration. Does military integration with allies reduce congressional oversight?
I don't think the congressional oversight's functional to begin with. So I don't know that we've had an audit of the Pentagon that's been functional in 25, 26 years. I think the last time they did is when we had a major tragedy hit the shores, and whether it was a false flag or whether it was something that happened organically or whether it was allowed to happen. I don't know that there's any real oversight. I'm not sure that has anything to do with foreign allies, though, to be fair. I think that the difference that we're seeing with this NDAA and this Section 219, and it is unique as far as I can tell amongst any national defense authorization acts that have previously been passed, is that it's codifying a requirement and adding a position at the Pentagon to integrate with a foreign military, or at least to cooperate them on certain levels, and that it has a very, very high level of position. So it's only responding to it. I think it's just going up to the Secretary of Defense and then it goes up to the president. So we're in a weird spot with that. But historically, I don't know that integrating allies overseas, I don't think that's really the problem. I think the problem has been more that we have unaccountability in general. And I don't think we can blame the allies. We probably should blame the people that are actually passing all this stuff and then not doing their jobs.
Yeah, I think the only point there is that when we integrate something overseas, it's, more hands off. So it's another arm's length away from Congress. So that's where I was going with that one. All right, Amity, to you. Should American taxpayers fund foreign missile defense systems?
American taxpayers shouldn't fund any foreign anything. So no.
All right.
Boom.
Jake, to you. Should the United States fight only wars that directly defend America?
Yeah, I mean, war or military action should be the absolute last resort, and it should only be if we're threatened, sovereignty, invasion of our own soil. I mean, every single base that we have that's outside the United States soil should be closed, given back to whatever country it's in. All that money should be put towards the debt, and we shouldn't be chasing $1.5 trillion military dollars in military budget just to try and keep this bloated thing going.
Awesome. All right. Kyle, to you, the category is anti-war and pro-life. Does endless war weaken constitutional government at home?
It definitely normalizes something that's not normal. So I guess the answer is yes. Does war overseas weaken, did you say the Constitution at home? Say it one more time for me. Repeat the question.
Yeah. Does endless war weaken constitutional government at home?
Yeah, what it's doing is it's sending money out that has nothing to do with the priorities. Obviously, there's a constitutional capability for us to declare war. The interesting thing is that our Constitution has neglected to do that since World War II. So we're not having, technically speaking, even wars. In fact, there's entire comedy routines right now that are out there talking about what we call the thing that is not war, that is clearly a war, where we go and we drop bombs and we attack and we kill other nations and our soldiers' lives are at risk. So our soldiers, airmen, we'll go down the list, sailors. Yeah, it's kind of atrocious to think about it that way, because we're not seeing them do the job they were designed to do. So we're essentially sending an incredible amount of money. The Pentagon just asked for a $1.15 trillion budget, and we're $40 trillion in the hole as a nation. It seems to be, at least, I would say it's more of a symptom than it is a cause, though, as I look at it. It seems like it's a never-ending money pit. We've been warned against this since basically the 1950s. This is a possibility. Because even the money you were talking about a moment ago, the money that goes into like overseas missile defenses, they're actually paid back into our country, and they're paid into our military and industrial complex. So they're paying off people that build things in the United States, and we're just finding new places to send our product that we all have to pay for, and maybe we didn't want. Like maybe you voted for no new wars like I did, and then suddenly we're out of war.
Yeah. I think they asked for 1.5 trillion for next year.
Yeah, there was a plus up to it. It kind of like that was Rand Paul versus like the actual bottom line budget, and then there was these like sort of increasing amplifiers to it. But it's a shocking amount of money.
Yeah, and then they'll keep asking for more money on top of that, which like they asked for more money for Iran already. So, all right, Amity, do you, can someone consistently value life while supporting most modern wars?
No, and I actually talk about this. This is the main topic that I'm passionate about. I believe that a consistent respect for human life means valuing innocent people regardless of their nationality, which is why I oppose war and foreign intervention. Supporting a consistent ethic of life means seeking peace whenever possible and using military force only for self-defense.
I agree with that. All right, Jake, to you. Does government have a higher duty to avoid war than to wage it?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to my previous answer, but it should always be the absolute last resort, and it should be as strategic as possible, and as minimal as possible to solve the problem solve the threat that we have, and that's it.
I agree. All right, Kyle, to you. The category is policing technology. Is AI making law enforcement too powerful?
I don't think AI is making it. I think it already is too powerful for what it does. So it's giving it new capabilities to do more man hours. It's making it more efficient at things that are potentially dangerous for American freedom. I think that AI in certain, lightening up burdensome tasks like going through a bunch of, admin burden, that's not the worst thing in the world. Streamlining things. Most of our court systems, most of our law enforcement are actually pretty antiquated in that. But it's making some of the scariest things possible. And for right now, there was an article that was written this week in Reason magazine, or reason.com. It pointed out that the FBI is now sourcing a contract so that it can scroll across social media and look for both buzzwords, keywords, and then also social dissidents. So they're looking for essentially political targets for theoretically, I guess, terrorist organizations or terrorist investigations into them. All of that stuff, it's terrifying because what it does is it says, I'm not even going to have the human being have the last look and say, is this acceptable? Is this tolerable? Is this something that we're not allowed to do because we have a First Amendment and this person has freedom of speech? And it just allows them to say, hey, here's these buzzwords. Go get me all these people that said these things. And then we can start categorizing them. The minute that that law enforcement starts looking into that, state, federal, local, doesn't really matter what level they're doing it, you've now identified a group of people that it should never have been able to get into in the first place without like a lot of grunt work. So I think it magnifies an existing problem.
Great points. All right, Amity, to you. Should police need a warrant before using advanced surveillance tools?
Oh, absolutely. If there's no probable cause, then peaceful people should just be left alone.
I agree with that. All right, Jake, to you. Has modern policing become too dependent on surveillance technology?
I would assume so, but I do my absolute best to avoid police at all costs. So I would have no firsthand knowledge of this whatsoever. I would assume so. I mean, it seems like technology is doing that regardless.
Yeah. All right. Back to you, Kyle. Oh, no. Enter scores. If you've not done so already, put them in the chat and share this out if you're enjoying it. Let's see what's going on. Dominican is here, 300 for all for being in the fight. I like that. 200 to Jake just because. 200 to Jake pity points for being in third. 100 to Kyle for the prego joke. Yeah. Yeah. Watch out for us.
Oh boy.
Rob Yates from LPNC is here. He's also a subscriber. 200 to Amity and Jake. Hi, friends. 200 to Jake for the pity points.
I don't need your pity.
100 to Kyle for no new wars. 100 to Kyle for the Treehouse Gang. 200 points for everyone here because y'all rock. I like that. 200 to Amity, no war for Israel. 100 to all, great panel. 100 to Kyle. Agreed, lobbying is a cancer. 200 for Jake. 200 to Jake. I hope you're not going to be sunburned after the show. Is the sun in the room with you? 200 to Amity. She's right about UN is Israel entanglement. 250 to Kyle for making Bongino look like a fraud. I like that. 200 to Kyle, straight to the point without nuance. Points to Amity. Points to Amity for the foreign policy. Points to everyone on the panel. Points to Amity, American tax dollars shouldn't fund anything foreign. Points to Jake to get a sunscreen for the window. Yeah, buy that right away. Points to Jake for being a day walker. I love this more than I can say. I love this. Points to Jake, close all them bases. Points to Jake, close the foreign bases. Points to Amity for her unwavering support for liberty and the unborn. Points to Jake for saying war should be a last resort and to protect our own soil. Points to Jake, lobbying is absolutely insane, especially at the state level. Minus to Kyle for needing a repeat of the question. Yeah, that's going to hurt you. It was a poorly worded question. I'm on your side on this one. I don't know what I was thinking there. Points to Kyle for the shout out to our military. Points to Kyle answering the problem, not just the question. Points to Kyle, too much money in government. Points to Kyle for the in-depth answers. Points to Amity. Points to Amity, seek peace whenever possible. Points to Amity. Points to Amity for being a peacekeeper. Points to Jake for a short, concise answer. More points to Jake. Points to Kyle for the electric lawnmower. Points to Amity, leave peaceful people alone. Points to Kyle, I just hope our names are touching on the AI-powered government watch lists. We know ours is touching yours, Nick, that's for sure. Points to Kyle for not falling for Fauci's BS. Points to Jake, I do my best to steer clear of all coppers too, buddy. Points to Jake for avoiding the popo, and points to Jake for more painful truth. Let's check out the scoreboard again. Ooh, we had a little flip-flop here. Amity jumps out into the lead, 3,300 points, just 100 in front of Kyle, and Jake making a valiant effort. Might have been some of the pity points. You might not want to turn those down, Jake. Yeah. Or ever close your blinds. That might help you too.
Dude, the blinds are closed.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Is the sun in the room with you now? I like that a lot. All right. Back to it. Kyle, to you. Oh, this category is brought to us by our friends at Xano. If you're new to privacy coins and you want to know how to use money that's real freedom, check out intro.xano.org. Kyle, the category is cryptocurrency and DeFi. Should government monitor cryptocurrency transactions without warrants?
Well, the short answer is no. The government already monitors way too many things. I don't really want that. We actually have a mechanism to handle this thing. It's called complaint. You can go to your governmental agency involving law enforcement if there's a problem, and you can make a complaint, and then they can investigate it based on the allegation or information that somebody was involved in a crime. That's what our system is actually supposed to do. So the idea that they are constantly monitoring something just proactively, there's no proactive database of information that our government doesn't abuse, period. And so that's my issue with Flock. That's my issue with anything that's, if we're loading up information just because we might need it one day and we're going to go and query it whenever we choose to. It's the same thing with FISA. It's the same thing with FISA 702 specifically, which gathers a bunch of stuff and it stores it in a data warehouse. All this stuff ends up being the same game. It's like, give the government access to information. They're going to find a nefarious way to work it. And all they're going to end up doing is justifying their own budget. So I hate all of it. I don't want it. I want it to go away. No to that.
With you on all that, brother. All right, Amity, to you. Does decentralized finance strengthen financial freedom?
So, just to be clear, I am like a DeFi retard. And so, knowing that I was going to be on a Friday night, which is sponsored by Xano, I did some research. And so, DeFi, it gives people control over their own money by reducing dependence on centralized institutions, which are heavily regulated. They can restrict transactions. And so, yeah, I mean, this can be beneficial to anyone trying to build parallel systems. And so ultimately, it's a good way to keep the government out of our business, for sure.
I like it. You've been listening on Friday nights. I appreciate that, Amity.
I have.
All right. Jake, to you. Should Americans have the unrestricted right to own cryptocurrency?
Americans should have the unrestricted right to own just about anything they want. I mean, not even the just about. It should really be able to own anything you want. If you want to own crypto, there's so many coins. I don't know enough about it. I would not sit here and pretend like I do. Shout out to Xano for being awesome and sponsoring the show. But you should be able to trade in whatever you want to trade, whatever you want to use to buy something. If someone wants to accept it, they should be able to accept it. You should be able to collect and stockpile that thing as much as you want without anybody telling you can or can't.
I like it. Privacy coins, keep them out of our business, though, so that's important. All right. Back to you, Kyle. Category is decentralization. Is decentralization the best path to restoring constitutional government?
I'm going to take decentralization to mean sending things back to the lowest level. And the answer obviously then is yes. So the fact that we have a Washington focused mentality when we talk about politics is the exact opposite of what this country was designed to do. The only government that should be touching you the most should be the closest to you. So they have to deal with you the most so they can see you showing up outside of their house, rolling up in kit or whatever needs to be done. I despise the fact that most of our government we think of as being federal and that we get all of our money sent to the federal government and then coming back, trickling down through state and county and so on, maybe your city. So decentralization is obviously the answer. The question is can we actually affect that change? And it's going to take some really enterprising states that decide to say, you know what, we have an amendment that already addressed this. And maybe we're going to go out there and say that you don't actually have the powers to go in and dip into all of our pockets and decide how we spend money on roads or anything else. We don't need your incentivization. So we're going to solve that problem. I'd love to see that. So yeah, 100% for decentralization. And I've moved into the zone. If you guys are talking crypto, I need to put on my safety helmet here.
I thought maybe somebody told you that our chat gives points for props.
I have a, this one is my First Amendment version. This is my press helmet in case I have to go watch riots.
Would that helmet protect Jake from the sun?
It would definitely heat up his dome. So possibly
might make
no.
it worse.
Yeah, it might stop the sunburn, but it might cook your brain at the same time.
There you go. All right, back to it. Amity, to you, does decentralization create more accountability?
Oh, sure. I mean, local governments are made up of our neighbors. So, you know, if you run into your city councilman at the store or sit next to the sheriff in the pew at church, They're a lot more likely to be honest with the responsibilities that they've been given over a bunch of DC bureaucrats.
All right. Jake, to you. Is concentrated political power always dangerous?
Yeah, I mean, it only gets larger. It only gets more comprehensive. It only gets more controlling. There's never a time where you concentrate efforts, you concentrate resources, concentrate power, and it gets less controlling, or it gets less burdensome to the average citizen.
I agree with that. All right, Kyle, back to you. This category is brought to us by our friends at Zoom Beyond Shrooms. Check them out at zoomtrip.com, xumtrip.com. Kyle, the category is drug legalization. Has the war on drugs failed?
They're almost there. If they could just get a little bit more budget, then I think they could win it. So they're on the edge, the precipice of great victory. Or maybe we could just stop spending money on something like that. That doesn't seem to work. The quote unquote war on anything, anytime government declares war on it, I feel like we're losing. We can't really spend our way out of this thing. It does seem to be like a demand side issue. So there's people that think that there's reasons to legalize everything. I'm somewhat sympathetic to that. I also think that there's a cultural value in trying to help people that don't need to be involved in some of this. But I don't like that our federal government has decided to take unlimited amounts of money because they use it to actually justify a bunch of other things that they do. So you can make drug cases about gun cases. You can make gun cases about drug cases. You can make national security cases about drug cases and vice versa. They do all this stuff kind of like once you've given them another tool in the tool belt when it comes to federal law enforcement, you're going to see, I mean, we're literally justifying the bombing of boats in the Caribbean and in the Pacific because of terrorism, because of drugs. I think we've lost the thread at that point.
I agree with that. All right. Let's see. Back to you, Amity. Has prohibition created more problems than it's solved?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, the war on drugs has fueled mass incarceration, the erosion of civil liberties, and it's done nothing to help addiction and overdoses. There's no reduction in that over the years that we've had this war on drugs. So, I think addiction should be treated as a health issue, and peaceful adults should be able to decide what they put in their own bodies.
I agree with that. All right, Jake, to you. Would legalization reduce organized crime?
I think so. I mean, I don't really know that we've ever done a study to be able to prove that, but it seems like a lot of the smuggling, a lot of the fentanyl trafficking, a lot of that I think would be taken care of if and that all kind of falls under organized crime. I think if legalization was in place, a lot of that would go away. And honestly, the product that you're getting is going to be better. You're not going to be getting again fentanyl in your pain pills. I mean, the actual quality of what you're getting is going to be so much higher without regulation, believe it or not, just because the way the market works.
Definitely. The cartels and everybody else making money off of it. All right. Kyle, back to you. The category is black markets and agorism. Do black markets grow because government over-regulates everyday life?
I mean, yeah, of course. So black markets come out of places where people want to find an alternative way from whatever sort of burden that's being put on them by the government. So the 100%, they have to be that. Interestingly enough, we were just the previous question was about whether or not, you're going to have a higher quality or whether you're going to get, better, if things are going to work out in favor if you get rid of prohibition. I don't know that organized crime goes away because we had prohibition in this country of alcohol and it went away and we still had the mob stick around. I think that there's this instinct that there's always going to be some people that want to work outside of whatever sort of the social norms are. And so we'll find people that will find a way, and they'll find either a way to extort or to steal or to cut corners or to offer bootleg products, whatever. So there will always probably be an instinct for that. But the more that you sort of take that, the sort of governmental overreach on it, once you've criminalized it, you've actually created the class that becomes a criminal class. And so they're more incentivized to kind of keep dodging. It's possible that when you remove that, you end up with everybody sort of operating in a free market. And it's just like, you just have a crappy product. and your crappy product is going to be, valued at that level. It's kind of one of these things as a thought experiment, because I don't think we can ever get rid of enough government. We're currently not on any track to get rid of enough government to actually find out if we can actually get rid of black market. So,
yeah, that's really true. All right, Amity, to you. Should peaceful voluntary exchange ever be treated as a crime?
No, not at all. I don't think it's the government's business what one person wants to sell to another person and what type of currency they accept.
I agree with that. All right, Jake, to you. Is economic freedom impossible without freedom to trade?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, to echo these answers that other people are given too, like there should be zero restriction on your trade with another person. I mean, another adult, another consumer in the market who wants a product that you want to sell, wants to pay you with whatever they want to pay you with, and you want to accept it. That should be the end of the story.
Definitely. All right, Kyle, back to you. Oh, no, enter scores in the chat if you've not done so already. Please share out the show again if you're having a good time. Our new friend Angel's here. What's up? 200 to Amity for her position in foreign policy. Summers here is here. 250 to Kyle for general brilliance. Jake is baking in the general brilliance that's going on here. Mustard Biscuits here. Can I pay for my subscription in EBT? We'll take it in anything. We really will. 50 to Jake, more pity points. Minus 1,000 to Jake for playing the game in light mode. Minus 100 to Amity for using her phone in light mode. Those are both very fair. Amity's phone burns my eyes out every day. 200 to Kyle for copying Free's look and style. That's fair. I am a cultural icon. Points to Kyle. More points to Kyle. Points to Kyle for just spitting it out with no notes, just facts. 200 to Amity for being a beautiful retard. 200 to Amity. DeFi shout out Xano. That was pretty good. I was impressed by that. Points to Jake. I didn't know he had eyes until more recently. Points to Jake. Own whatever you want, whatever. Points to Jake. Nice white screen. Most people use a green screen. Points to Kyle for the helmet and gear. Shout out to the Tackleberry Project on YouTube. Points to Kyle for being clever. Points to Kyle for his Star Trek Borg helmet. Points to Kyle would have been 200, but he's missing the nods. 200 to Jake for standing up for freedom. Points to Kyle for wearing Mitch McConnell's falling down helmet. Mitch is laughing on the phone with him right now.
All right, we're stepping it up.
Points to Kyle for the helmet, which was probably just sitting near his desk.
Let's freaking go.
Points to Amity for local government. Points to Jake, my pale-faced friend. Points to Kyle for the helmet. Points to Kyle for the sarcasm. Points to Kyle for having pythons. Points to Jake, if you're a Kryptonian, you should be fully charged at this point. 200 super Tyrion.
That's good.
That's the value
That's
by buddy
gold.
Chris Briggs. That's what Chris Briggs. Yep.
That was gold.
Points to Kyle. Every time our government declares war on something, I just assume we're going to lose. Points to Amity for her precise and quick answers. Very impressive. Points to Kyle for spitting facts. Points to Kyle. Points to Amity. The war on drugs has eroded civil liberty and not helped solve the problem. Points to Amity. She's 2 for 2 on podcasts in the last 24 hours. Yeah, she was on Black Powder podcast. Really saved Marcus from doing a poor job last night, so we appreciate her doing that.
Nice.
Points to Jake. Nice tagline. Unvaxxed and overtaxed. Points to Amity for having a great opinion. Points to Jake. War should always be the last resort. 200 to GI Kyle for killing it. Minus to Kyle. I'll take the mafia over the authoritarian government. Points to Kyle. Points to Kyle for keeping the golden dome on. Points to Amity. Free exchange for everybody. What's up, Andrea? Minus to Jake. I support black markets. Yeah, we did a whole show on that. It got really messy. Points to Kyle for wanting to get rid of more government. Points to Amity. Not government's business to meddle in our market exchanges. Points to Amity, quick and to the point. Points to Jake for that light bill. Points to Jake for free trade or for trade freedom and the sparkly straps on his shirt. I think that's the blinds on his shirt.
I think that's the holes in the blinds. It's good.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I like when they move.
Melted. He's being melted like an ant with a magnifying glass. That's what's like going on.
He's charging like a solar panel.
Yeah, but points to Jake, nice shirt. 200 enter score point, slide points to Amity. Points to Jake for being a giant ray of sunshine. Points to Kyle for being a whistleblower. Yeah, that's badass. Points to Amity for saying the peaceful voluntary exchange shouldn't be considered a crime by the government. Points to Jake, I will be his long lost pal. John's here.
That's
What's up? Points to Jake. Very intelligent answers. Go freedom. Bronner's here. What's up, Bronner? Points to Amity for having such a pretty smile. She's very pretty. 100 for the helmet upgrade. We're doing wardrobe changes. 200
Upgraded.
to Kyle for his spiffy helmet. And 200 to Amity for Marcus shouting you out. I don't know if that's a positive, but you got points for it. So I would not like to be associated with Marcus, but that's me. All right, let's check the score. Kyle jumps back out in front, 57-98. Amity in second, and Jake baking in the sun in third. All right, let's do it again here. All right, Kyle, to you. Category is flock cameras and ALPRs, automatic license plate readers. Is mass vehicle tracking compatible with the Fourth Amendment?
No, of course not. Actually, we just had case law that was just established about this that had to do with whether or not the querying or a Google warrant, which is going to be like a geofence warrant, that's a specific amount of things going on in a very specific place. That situation has already been adjudicated, and the Supreme Court said get a warrant. So if you want to search a database where people are putting information that's generally speaking not available and it has to be queried, if law enforcement wants to query it, they got to get a warrant. Now, how that actually works, because you're dealing with a real chicken and egg situation right now, I don't know how they're going to square that circle. In fact, it may turn out that geofence warrants are not compatible with the Fourth Amendment at all, because you're not going to have the ability to find out who's in the area without knowing who is in the area, and they're using the geofence to find the people in the area. It's the exact same thing that the flock cameras are. The flock cameras are just a glorified version of what your phone's already doing. So I think that this has actually already been decided. They may have to do it again on the video end of it, but the data as far as your cell phone and all the sort of information, RF and near field communication and Bluetooth, et cetera, all that stuff has already been called out by the Supreme Court as a Fourth Amendment search.
Great points. All right, Amity, to you. Do flock cameras make communities safer or less free?
Safer or less free? So, I love you, but I reject the premise of your question. Public safety should never come at the expense of constitutional rights. So whether they help in some capacity honestly doesn't really matter, because mass surveillance is unconstitutional. Flock cameras undermine individual freedom of law-abiding citizens.
I would have muted you right there for rejecting my question, but I don't want to sleep on the couch, so we'll continue on. All right, Jake, to you. Should cities remove flock cameras if voters reject them?
Cities should remove flock cameras regardless of what voters think. Someone in the neighborhood shouldn't be able to vote on whether my data is captured and stored for future use. Flock cameras, like we're talking, they're completely unconstitutional, and they need to be chopped down. And anybody who is out vandalizing and removing them is a hero in my book.
I like it. Get a Sawzall, y'all. All right.
Wait, why do you not already have a Sawzall? If you don't have one, explain that in a comment, please.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you don't have one.
Yeah, no, I want to know why you don't have one. What are you doing?
It's a nice Christmas gift, you know. All right. Kyle, back to you. The category is ICE militarization.
Wait, do you want a Sawzall for Christmas?
You just said it.
No, I have. All right. So, Kyle, back to you. The category is ICE militarization. Has border security expanded federal power too far?
Yes, but most of you don't know how far it's actually gone. Most people probably recognize that there's this 100 miles zone within the functional range of the border that allows Border Patrol, that allows ICE and stuff to do searches as though we're at the border. That's already pretty incredible. That's already, any exception to the Fourth Amendment makes me very uncomfortable. I don't think they should exist at all. But what's crazy is that ICE actually has the functional power of the border as long as they maintain visual with any target, whether it be a person or a vehicle, no matter how far into the United States it goes. That's insane. At this point, we're just creating things to make it easier. No one said law enforcement was supposed to be easy. No one said there's a reason why we have the Fourth Amendment in theory, is that if there's probable cause to believe that someone was involved in a crime, then you can go get a warrant based on probable cause, and a judge is supposed to adjudicate it and look out for the public interest. That's not what we're doing anymore. We have people that actually can sit there, and this is just the example for you. An ICE agent can observe a truck coming in through, let's say, the Bridge of the Americas in El Paso. They can drive all the way north. They can head up I-25, and they can end up in northern Montana. And as long as they were under constant surveillance, whether by drone, whether it be by visual of the vehicles, or whether it be like an aerial platform, they can literally follow it all the way to Montana, and then they can search it. And they can search it without a warrant. That's, at this point, that's completely unacceptable, and it continues to be the standard. So I think actually Homeland Security, as a general rule, has been a failed experiment for American liberty going back 25 years.
And that 100-mile border area covers all of Florida. So it's crazy how that works. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Amity, to you. Has immigration enforcement become too militarized?
Let me get on my soapbox here. ICE has repeatedly used excessive force, especially in the last 2 years, against peaceful people who pose no threat to public safety. These people are our neighbors. They're contributing to the community. We should focus enforcement on violent criminals, and we should also protect due process, human dignity, and constitutional rights of everyone. And contrary to what is ignorant to many, constitutional rights are not just for American citizens. So, abolish ICE.
With you there. All right. Jake, to you. Can America secure its borders without expanding federal force?
I think if you actually, I mean, I don't have all the detail, like Kyle said. I'm not aware of all the extra special abilities that the agencies get. But I think if you really just focused the border enforcement on just the border and didn't let it kind of morph into so many other things, I think it could be more effective.
Okay. All right, Kyle, back to you. Categories: localism versus central planning. Does Washington try to solve too many local problems?
Yes, obviously. I think Washington is actually trying to solve all the local problems. And in reality, the only thing that our federal government should be doing is, broadly speaking, protecting the American people from force and fraud. So it has a mandate. Donald Trump actually said that he wanted to reduce the size of the federal government. He said it implicitly. He said he wanted to fund the federal government exclusively through tariffs. If you were going to do that, you'd have to take the budget back probably about 125 years. And so you would only be handling a very, very narrow subset of what it currently does. That means you're talking about 90% of the federal government shouldn't exist. And most of these things are actually state problems to begin with. The fact that we have a Department of Education that goes out of your pocket, goes into the federal government, then gets fed back into a federal agency that turns around, looks at your state, tells your state, here's how much money we're going to give you. And then the state turns around and says, here's how much we're going to give to each of your counties. It's absolutely insane. How on earth would we consider that? And this is not a new problem, though. This goes back to 1913. This goes back to the income tax. So when you agreed, and that, not us, nobody on earth is alive today that agreed to this. When they agreed to start taxing income is when we started seeing the federal government look at your local issues, because the most local issue you have is how much money you make and what goes in your bank account. And they got involved in that, 113 years ago.
I believe Mitch McConnell was alive then.
He was alive. Actually, Chuck Grassley was already in the Senate at that point. So
Chuck Grassley had been elected 3 times by then.
That's correct. He already had a huge corn crop, and he was pretty into it. He was starting his first corn podcast actually in 1913.
There you go.
It was called a radio show.
Yeah. All right, Amity, to you. Do local communities make better decisions than federal agencies?
Oh, absolutely. Issues should be handled at the smallest level possible, by individuals, by families, by churches, local communities. Local leaders see us as citizens, and distant federal bureaucracies, sorry, see us as like numbers on a spreadsheet. So, yeah, sure. Local communities definitely make better decisions.
All right. Got a little tongue-tied, but I'll allow it. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Jake,
That's
to you.
not going to work for the short.
Jake, has America become too dependent on centralized government?
America's become too dependent on the government in general, centralized or not. Everybody wants government to be their daddy and to regulate them and to save them and protect them, when in reality, there's not a single thing the government does that private industry or free market can do better. It's just asinine to think that the government's here to do anything other than to take your money and your rights.
Very true. All right, Kyle, back to you. The category is public schools. Has government failed at educating America's children?
I don't know why the federal government thinks they need to educate America's children. I have absolutely no idea what their responsibility is for education of children. So the fact that we have any of that stuff going on is bizarre. We homeschool in my house. I got 4 kids. 3 of them are currently being homeschooled by my wife. There are certain choices you have to make that happen. One of them is that you don't want to put your kids in government schools, and you don't want the government telling them what they're going to learn and how they're going to learn it, what values they're going to grow up with, and what sort of things they're going to learn how to think. So we're doing that internally. I think people have a responsibility to pull their kids into and manage them themselves. So, but unfortunately, like I said earlier, I think most Americans actually don't want freedom. They actually just want freedom from responsibility, which means you just let your kids go. They're outsourced to a government school. They're doing glorified babysitting for 8 hours a day, and they're getting programmed to think whatever it is. They used to be probably better schools, I assume. They don't seem like they're awesome right now. And the fact that we keep finding out that all kinds of crazy policies, whether it be about gender ideology, whether it be about actual values that should be taught in home and have nothing to do with the government's business, are being kind of shoved down the throat of children. It's kind of bizarre, because you'd think that people would react much more aggressively. And the number of people that are pulling them out into homeschool is high, but it's not nearly as high as it could be. It tells me a lot about where people's priorities are. I can still see you guys. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
All right, now we go. Now I can't see you.
Your helmet's migrating south. All right. Amity, to you. Would families do better with education outside the public school system?
Oh, yeah. Families do better with education outside the public school system. Look, the Department of Education was founded in, 1979? And since then, administrative costs and salaries have soared for administrators, while teacher salaries and student performance has remained stagnant. So, public education is like indoctrination. It enriches those in control of the education unions, and, teaches children to be obedient citizens. So, my recommendation, like Kyle said, homeschool your kids, or if you can't homeschool, find co-ops, private schools that teach children your values instead of the values of the state. And, I think kids would be much more well-rounded in that case.
I agree with all that. All right, Jake, to you. Should education be funded and controlled locally instead of federally?
Yeah, I mean, it should be all voluntary. There should be zero organized funding of schools. The whole public school system, even at a local level, should be completely abolished, and let people start co-ops, let people start their own networks of education. If they, if there's a single parent who can't do the homeschooling because they also are working, let those people start a network and fund their own kind of co-op and group of people that are going to teach kids the way they want to be taught. Public school is an absolute joke. And like Amity said, it's nothing but indoctrination, getting you up there to start saying the Pledge of Allegiance every day and just teaching you how to be a factory worker. It's ridiculous.
I agree with all that. All right. Enter your scores in the chat if you've not done so already. Please share this out again if you're enjoying yourself.
Free. I think people should be allowed to do night school if they have night vision.
Interesting idea. All right. Points to Kyle for the night vision. Don't look at Jake. You might go blind.
He's right.
That's a safe one.
I got irises on.
Props to the mafia for rules the government has none. All right. Get the flock out of here. I like that, Renzo. 200 to Kyle for a decisive no. 100 to Kyle, get a warrant. Points to Jake, anything should be considered currency. Also, hurry up. Points to Kyle, flock off my Fourth Amendment. Points to Jake for looking like the human version of Parmesan cheese in that light. Oh, this is too good. You got to sit by the window every time, Jake.
Where's Scientific when you need him?
Yeah, exactly. Points to Jake, definitely not pity points. 200 to everyone for standing up. Points to Jake, anything should be currency. Also, hurry up, I'm hungry. Points to Amity for rejecting free. That's not how I heard that. Points to Amity for flock. Points to Amity, confessing your love and rejection of free in the same sentence is epic. Welcome to my world, Chris. Points to Jake, flock cameras need to go. Points to Jake for absolutely no flock cameras. Points to Kyle for details. If only he can share the flock palette cleanser from this week. Points to Jake for imitating Icarus.
God damn.
Points to Jake, hell yes.
Boy who
remove
flew
flock
too
cameras
close.
and heroes who remove them. Points to Jake, flock cameras need to be removed regardless of voting. Points to Amity, aka the Giza, for her special technique of shadow boxing. Points to Jake, he is correct. Heroes are flock camera removers. Points to Jake, nobody asked for my vote to put them up. They don't care what we want or vote for. 200 points to Jake for being a great son, well-read and informed. Proud of you.
I'll take it.
Get him blinds for Christmas. Points to Kyle for
Shit,
recommending
blackout shit.
flock. Recommendations on flock. Points to Kyle pro Sawzall. Points to Kyle for wearing a flock camera. Points to Amity for cutting free off. That happens a lot. Points to Amity for saying free doesn't have the tool she thinks you need. Oh my god. Oh, points to Kyle. Metal blades matter. Minus to Kyle for having better special helmets than me. Points to Amity for exposing Free's lack of proper toolage.
Brutal.
Oh, I have zero friends. That's really what this boils down to. Points to Kyle. The judges are part of the problem. Points to Amity for keeping it real and spicy. Minus 200 to anyone who doesn't already have a reciprocating saw. Sawzall is a name brand. That's fair. Points to Amity for getting on your excessive force soapbox. Stack it higher. Points to Amity for constitutional rights. Points to Kyle for having an axe in the background. Oh, he knows what I'm talking about. Points to Amity for getting on her soapbox. Points to Amity, abolish ICE. Points to Amity, government sucks. Points to Jake, more narrowed focus on borders. Points to Amity, abolish ICE and other three-letter agencies, up to and including GOV. I like it. Points to Kyle, if he puts the goggles on. He already did that, so I think he gets those. Points for get DC out of local government to Kyle. Points to Kyle, 95% of governance. Points to Kyle for knowing specifics in history. Points for Chuck reference. Points to Kyle for knowing things. Points to Amity, local is better. We're not numbers on a spreadsheet. Points to Amity for the ebonics. Oh boy. Points to Jake. I miss If by Whiskey. Yeah, it was a good show. Points to Amity, community is greater than centralization. Points to Amity for localization. Points to Amity for the flub. Points to Jake, no more daddy government. Points to Jake, government is far too intrusive. Points to Amity for pulling a free on bureaucracy. I can't read. She was just talking. She was not reading that. Points to Jake, America has become too dependent on the cartel mafia regime called the government. Points to Kyle, the government is terrible at education. Points to Jake could power the entire eastern seaboard with the sun reflecting off his forehead. 200 points for independent energy, Jake. Yeah, Elon wants him to run the power grid is what we heard. Points to Jake, that's the definition of a free market. Points to Kyle for homeschool. Points to Kyle for the gear. Points to Kyle for homeschool. Points to Kyle, get government out of public schools. Homeschool for the win. How many of these did you start, Terry? Points to Kyle, get your kids out of the cubicles of conformity. I'm going to need to lay down after this round. Points for the first person that says text it.
Text it.
There we go.
Text it.
Finally, I was listening on X on my commute and wasn't able to leave any comments. That's Brent from the Aiming Up podcast. Check out his show. Points to Amity. Local communities see us as citizens, not numbers on a spreadsheet. Minus 100 for tripping over bureaucracy.
Come on, Nick, you're
points-
killing me.
Points to Jake for cosplaying as Space Ghost for this. Points to Jake. Points to Amity. Points to Jake. Academy Award goes to Jake for best makeup. Wait till you see the shorts on Tools. Oh boy. Points to Amity. Local is better. All right. Let's see where we're at. Kyle still in first. Amity second. Jake third.
This is getting out of control.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not sure if I can't tell when Jake's in a smaller screen. It kind of looks like he may have just frozen the screen and walked away. There's no discernible features.
Yeah, he freezes up like Mitch McConnell too. He's wearing the same makeup and all
Poor
right.
Jake. Y'all stop picking on him.
Not a chance. Not
I
a
like
chance.
this. I like the
I
sparkles
like
on
his
his shirt.
pasty white color.
Yeah. I'm going to use him to white balance the show next time. All right. Let's go.
That was kind of a nerdy joke.
There's plenty here. We
Yeah.
don't need any more white balance. We're good.
All right. Kyle, to you. The category is nullification. Has Washington ignored the limits placed on it by the states?
Yeah, I think that's a twofold answer, though. So, yes, generally it has, but I think the states actually gave that up. And sadly enough, I think the people actually gave that up, too. I think we broke the Senate. The Senate was supposed to actually represent the states and the state houses specifically, not the people in the states the way that they do. So direct election of senators is a big problem. I think the 17th Amendment is an issue. But generally speaking, the states have decided to be, subservient, and they're not fighting for what's in the 10th Amendment, which makes more sense to me. I think they've given up the ghost on this. And again, I don't think it's recoverable because there's so many of these compounding errors. It doesn't look like anybody's going to try to reverse 115 years worth of poor decision making and more federalized central government.
Great points. All right, Amity, to you. Would stronger states produce a healthier republic?
Oh, yeah. I mean, whenever possible, decisions should be made closer to the people rather than distant federal agencies.
Excellent. All right, Jake, to you. Is nullification a legitimate constitutional safeguard?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the problem is I don't think enough people know about it, and especially like jury nullification, even at a local level, there's not enough people who know of it, and then there's not enough people who really have the balls to call it out and try and enforce it. I mean, it's one of those kind of quietly known things by anybody who's paying attention, but otherwise, I mean, the 99% of the population isn't really aware of it.
Great points. All right, Kyle, back to you. The category is 16th and 17th Amendment failure. Did these two amendments fundamentally change America's constitutional balance?
Clearly, yes. So the 16th gave the federal government the first choice at your money, which means that it went from being something that was previously untouchable and they had to go through the states. And then these both happened in 1913. You ended up with a federal government that had first access, first right of refusal, like the story in Braveheart about the king having the first night with your wife. They get the first look at whatever you make. And so that fundamentally changes the power structure when you're paying taxes, when you have to pay it up to the federal government first, and they get first dibs. And then the second thing is that we were supposed to have representation for the people, the masses, in the House. We were supposed to have an upper chamber that was supposed to represent not the masses, but it was supposed to represent the states. That's the purpose of it. Your state senators, your state representatives, whatever they're called, every system is a little bit different. But all the states were supposed to pick their senators, and so that's where it was supposed to be fair and even and balanced. It was supposed to show the interest of the state houses. In effect, the 17th Amendment ruined the distillation of public opinion in the states, so we could actually have a functional Senate. And by those things too happening, like I think they're actually fatal wounds to this country, and they've only gone further down that road. So once the Senate broke in 1913, we actually had the Administrative Procedures Act kick in 1946, where they said, you know what, we're not actually going to legislate the way we were supposed to. That's actually really hard to do. So what we'd like to do is we'd actually like to send out broad mandates to executive agencies, and then they can actually write what they're supposed to do with those mandates, and their rules will have force of law. So now we have the executive creating laws. I mean, it's a pretty straight path. It got worse with the Chevron doctrine. Thankfully, that was just overturned by the courts recently. But we have we've got a long ways to go to roll back 113 years worth of junk.
Sad but true. I agree. All right, Amity, to you. Did the 16th Amendment permanently expand federal power?
Oh, for sure. As you can see by our massive debt and deficit spending. Here, hang on. So, this is my debt badge that the wonderful Representative Thomas Massey gifted to me. I don't know why I'm smiling, because it's about to hit $40 trillion. Fiscal restraint is like far more difficult when our government has virtually unlimited taxing power.
Yep, for sure. All right, Jake, to you. Would repealing the 17th Amendment strengthen the Republic?
I mean, yeah, I believe so. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know enough about it to really give a long answer. But based on what Kyle's talking about, how they changed it, I would think that if you repealed that, that would definitely help.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Kyle, to you. Categories property tax. Has property taxation become excessive?
Well, I think all taxation is kind of theft, isn't it? So we're kind of in a bad spot where we are now paying installments on our own property, and the government can take away something that you've paid off free and clear and have no lien on. I don't know what the difference between a property tax and just being a peasant that farms on behalf of a nobility. And the nobility is called Washington, or maybe it's called Austin, Texas, or maybe it's called whatever, Helena. I don't know, wherever you live. I despise ongoing property taxes. I guess if we had one and it was fair, it was based on consumption, and it had to do with like the idea that when you bought the property, you also paid some sort of transaction. Sure. Okay. I'm on board with that, I guess, if I have to be. If it funds something of value and we all agree on it. The fact that we continue to get hammered home with property taxes on an annual basis everywhere, and it's decided by people who are usually unelected bureaucrats who are just trying to fill out their own budget. It's nauseating to me. It actually makes me viscerally angry. And when I explain it to my children, who are 9 and 7, my older 2 children look at it and they go like, how is that possible? So even a child can recognize the sort of fundamental unfairness in it.
Definitely. If you want to teach your kids tax their allowance, that'll wake them up, right?
I just try to explain it to them when we're going to the grocery store, where the money came from, how it's been taxed before I got it, and what we're about to pay in taxes, and then what it's going to cost on the toll roads to get home. And they look at me like I've lost my mind, and they don't even have any money.
Exactly. Amity, to you. Should states eliminate property taxes?
Absolutely. I think that services, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's education, whether it's, emergency services, ambulances, fire, anything needed by citizens should be funded voluntarily and as locally as possible.
Agree with all that. Jake, to you. Do you truly own property if you pay taxes on it forever?
No, of course not. And it's whatever money that they claim that they need for, back to Amity's point, infrastructure, funding, whatever, that should all be voluntary. Everybody that saves all the money on property tax when we abolish it should get to pick what they need in their community, what they need to fund for their local neighborhood. And it shouldn't be up to bureaucrats to try and fill out their budget with your hard-earned money. And it's just another way. I mean, they get you coming, they get you going, they get you every which way. And it's another way for them to just hold you by your ankles and shake you till stuff stops coming out.
I agree. All right, last 3 questions of the night. First one goes to Kyle. Categories financial autonomy. Does government have too much influence over private financial decisions?
The government gets first dibs on your money. So I think by the very nature of the order of primacy, the fact that they can grab money before you get it, and if you have no more money, you still owe them money, then yeah, I think the federal government is deeply involved. This goes back to the 16th Amendment. Interestingly enough, it was passed at a time when people thought only a very small fraction of very wealthy people would ever have to deal with paying income taxes. So interestingly, all of the ideas of greed and thinking, I want, coveting, these are actually sort of biblical principles that come into play. If you covet or you envy what your neighbor has and you think, well, maybe we should just take from them and to redistribute it. All these things end up coming back to haunt you, to the fact that like every single person now is responsible for paying the government first. And that obviously has consequences on your individual discussion, your financial decisions. If the government gets first grab on your money, how many people have ever said, "Oh, I've got a settlement coming in. I'm going to get $10,000." And they'd be like, "Well, what does that $10,000 actually equal?" Because it doesn't actually equal $10,000. It might be 37% less. It might be 9% less. Depends on how much you made before that. So the government is then telling you what you're going to do with your money. Those are the financial decisions being made every single day. And every single person who's ever had cash come in that wasn't taxed first is out there trying to figure it out. Every single person who's ever had a salary offer is trying to figure out, what does that mean after taxes? What does it mean after the government gets their bite out of it? Because, what is making financial decisions other than looking at how much do I actually get to keep of the money that I was actually promised for the work I was actually doing? Again, do it with children. You'll point out very quickly how uncomfortable regular people would be about it if we weren't conditioned to believe that that was standard or normal.
Very true. All right, Amity, to you. Has financial regulation become too intrusive?
Oh, absolutely. I can just give a couple of examples. Banks are required to notify the government if you make a transaction that's $10,000 or more. It's none of the government's business what you do with your money, what you withdraw, what you deposit. And then in my industry, I'm in the real estate settlement industry, and we have wires daily that are being sent in real estate transactions that get stuck in OFAC, which is Office of Foreign Asset Control. It's part of the Department of Treasury. And what it does is they're reviewing these transactions to see if it's for nefarious purposes without any form of, due process or, any form of, I don't know, it's like, if you have a last name like Garcia or Perez, they might think that you're in the drug cartel. So they hold up your money for days. Or if your last name's Mohammed, they might think, you're a terrorist just because you have a similar last name to someone who might be a terrorist. And so this money gets held up for days and days. People are waiting on these funds. They've sold a house. They need the money to buy a new house. Their closings get delayed. Their mortgage payoffs accrue additional daily interest, all because the government wants to intrude in your transaction and decide whether or not you have the right to transfer this money. And it's all bullshit.
Very true. Last question of the night to you, Jake. Should government have less control over how you earn and spend your money?
The government should have zero control over how you earn and spend your money. That's it.
Mic drop.
I thought you froze up. All right. Excellent. All right. Enter your scores in the chat. Share it out one more time if you think people would enjoy the replay. And tell us who you thought won. Tell us what you thought of the show. All right. Last time into the chat. It's still hopping. What is going on here? All right.
But Bing Bong ain't out. I'm chilling. Bing Bong's not out. I'm good.
Oh, boy. Points to Jake. Data centers want to hire your power generator. Points to Kyle for the jokes. Points to Jake for giving me an idea for my next t-shirt. I'm guessing the t-shirt would be white. Points to Kyle. Friendly Fridays are the best on the Kyle Seraphin show. Points to Amity. Leave Jake alone. Points to Amity for sticking up for our buddy Jake. You do love that light mode. Points to Jake for glowing more than Vanilla Ice. Paul's joining us. This looks interesting. Well, thanks for joining us. Points to Jake. Points, not jokes. Points to Kyle for creating the BCN fam. Points to Kyle. Points to Amity. I didn't hear the answer because I was talking shit. Sorry. Points to Jake. People don't know or understand nullification. Points to Jake for nullification. Points to Jake to nullify being in third place. Points to Jake for figuring out how to get a tan while on a podcast. Points to Jake, he's correct. Sadly, many are unaware of nullification. Points to Kyle, repeal 1913. Points to Kyle, got a movie reference in. Points to Kyle for nodding off. Keeps getting worse. Points to Kyle. Points to Kyle for using bigger words than expected for someone wearing a helmet. Points to Amity for the Massey shout out. Points to Amity for flexing the debt badge. Points to Kyle for the Prima Nocta reference. All right, I fucked one up. All right. Points to Kyle for the sure property taxes. Ridiculous. Points to Kyle, we're just leasing our property. Points to Amity for the Massey support. Points to Kyle again for facts. Step away from the light, Jake. It's not your time, brother. 200 points. Points to Kyle for teaching the kids early. Points to Kyle for F property taxes. Points to Kyle, his kids even understand taxation is theft. Points to Amity, property taxes must be eliminated. Points to Amity, local. Points to Kyle, working on building his own baseball team. Points to Kyle for peeing in the pool. Points to Jake, property taxes are a subscription and a lease payment. Sadly, you don't own your own property with them. Points to Jake, they get you anyway you go. Points to Jake for putting up with the bright light jokes. That's his fault. Points to Jake for reasons. Points to Kyle, taxation is theft. Healer Protector lives on a farm and has no public utilities and still pays property taxes.
Brutal.
Points to Amity, forgot why, was a good reason. Trust my 4D chess plan. Points to Jake for supporting Kyle and Amity's answers. Points to Kyle because his Bing Bong ain't out. Oh, here we go. Bing Bong ain't out, so he's good. Points to Amity for being female. I appreciate that about her as well. Points to Kyle. They used the money against my own interest. Points to Amity for patiently waiting on Kyle's answers. Points to Amity. KYC and BSA are bullshit. 200 points to Chris for having the least amount of typos for like an hour and a half. I'm not sure I want to live in a world where you don't mistype everything, Chris. Points to Amity. It's none of the government's business. Oh, F, the government stole more money because of xenophobia. Points to Jake. Yes, Jake lights up the day. The name is appropriate here. Points to Jake. Government should have zero control. Points to Amity. No third parties between parties when sending payments. Points to Jake. F, the government controlling my money. 200 bonus points to Jake for being Anarcho Syndicate's best customers. Check out their gear. Go to Brent's site. Points to Jake. Points to Jake Day. I love you. Another 200 for Kyle for Cash Cry. 200 to Kyle, or 100 to Kyle. Join us on the Kyle Seraphin show during the week, 9:30 a.m. Eastern every weekday. 200 to Amity for showing her guns without getting us kicked off of YouTube. I appreciate that, Dad. 200 to Jake. Government shouldn't be in the middle of our transactions. Points to Jake for not fixing them lights. Points to Amity. Points to Kyle for keeping on the helmet. 100 Bing Bong soundbite. 200 to Jake for being a good sport. Great job, little fella. Points to Jake for don't take our money. And 200 to Kyle for sliding in Bing Bong soundbite. There we go. All right. Last time. Oh, it was so close. The winner tonight is Kyle. 11,211. Amity just 100 points behind, less than 100 points behind. And Jake was right there as well. All right. Jake, third place. What did you think tonight, man?
That's honestly about how I expected it to go. So I'm good. It was great to be on here with Kyle and Amity. I enjoy hearing their answers as much as everybody else. So it's always fun to be on the show. And if you're either going to have me on for every show now for the jokes or never again. But if I ever come back, I will have blackout curtains.
Don't do it. You're coming
into
focus.
Man.
You're starting to come into focus right now.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. We can almost see you right now, so the show must be over.
It's the West Coast thing. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. And Jake is a Liberty First advocate, and he's a father, and we appreciate him joining us tonight. He may have deleted his ex. I'm trying to talk him back onto it, but
no.
Appreciate all your support for the show, man. Appreciate you coming out to Freedom Fest with us. We had a blast out there. All right. This is going to make my weekend miserable, but Amity finished in second place. She's going to be talking about this for the next week or maybe month or whatever. What did you think, Amity?
I mean, if I had to lose to somebody, at least it was Kyle. He's a great guy. I love his podcast. He's doing great work out there. And so, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Awesome. Promote your stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on X. I promote the consistent ethic of life. I'm a Catholic libertarian activist. And I also cyberbully the government at Amity Lee 13.
And there it is, at Amity 13. And I will mention our speaking engagement coming up here in a second. And Kyle, first time on the show, you came away with the win. What did you think?
I think the helmet probably had a lot to do with it. I think I was geared up for action, and then we brought it. And I think that we're all paying taxes. So
Stricken. You're stricken. Poverty stricken.
Awesome.
I had fun. You made me think more than I wanted to, faster than I needed to at the end of a week. So that's kudos to all of you. And it was good.
Yeah.
It's good meeting you guys and hearing the story. I wish our ideas could be implemented. I don't think they will be.
Yeah, that's true. Promote the show.
Yeah, you guys can find the Kyle Seraphin Show. It's a podcast. You can find it at kyleseraphinshow.com. If you're inclined to get it on Spotify, that's the easy way to get audio and video, control all of it, and be able to skip through the ads if you want. There's not that many. I try to keep them like every 30 minutes tops, so it's not like some others where they want to sell you something every 12 seconds. We do all kinds of very sarcastic, snarky takes, and I think our podcast has a record. I think we've gotten as many as 40 people in the FBI fired either on purpose or on accident in the last 18 months. And we're working on a few more. So we'll see. If you guys want to join that, that's how you find us, kyleseraphinshow.com or at Kyle Seraphin on YouTube and Rumble and on X.
You're doing God's work with that stuff for sure. Yeah, check him out. He's at Kyle Seraphin on all socials and channels. And check out kyleseraphin.com. Appreciate you being on, brother. Let's add on Terry back one last time here. Terry, what do you think tonight?
Well, I cannot deny that the chat kept me busy tonight. I think I'm going to have to, take a Tylenol for my fingers. They worked me hard. And these guys made a lot of great friends in the chat tonight. They were absolutely awesome. I hope you guys are following each other. It was, hi, Bronner, I see you. But you guys were great on the show. It was flipping and flopping everywhere. It was absolutely a great show. And I'm going to love working on these shorts and getting stuff out. Thank you,
Awesome.
Jim Bob. Thank you, William.
And Fridays are sponsored by Xano. Your privacy matters. Choose Xano, the leading blockchain platform that prioritizes confidentiality and security. And if you're new to privacy coins, visit intro.xano.org. Thank you again to all of our subscribers. You can subscribe to us on X. And if you want to sponsor the show, email studio@freedomuncut.com. Amity and I will both be giving talks at the Midwest Peace and Liberty Festival, August 6th through 9th, Lake Satoshi, Michigan. Visit mplfest.org to register. And thank you again to Freedom Fest for having us out. Their dates next year are July 21st through 24th. It's a good time. You should join us. And once again, our friends at antiwar.com are having a fundraiser. Donate if you can. They're doing such important work. They're really one of the few voices of truth out there. So please support them if you can. We will be on next Saturday live from the Midwest Peace and Liberty Festival, so you can check us out then. Our talks will be streamed through their website on Friday, so check those out as well. We will be resharing all of that. And so we'll see you next Saturday. Appreciate you all. Have a great night.